Yes, not a lot, but I do. Yes.
So it sounds like you completely embraced the internet. Now, from your perspective, either in your office or just working with other professionals, what's the percentage of the realtors that have embraced the internet like you have?
Well, I would say that the majority of them have, because if they have not, they're not in the business.
Wow.
Or they're doing very little, or they have secondary jobs.
It's just a hobby then.
Pardon?
It's just those people would be what I would say. They just do it as a hobby because they like it, but they have a full-time job somewhere else.
Yeah, and they don't do much at all.
Right.
At all.
So this new dilemma we just had means that we got a tremendous amount of realtors actually left the business, did they?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. What would the percentage of that be? Because that make it easier for you now if it's going to come back. You know, you're in there.
Yes, it's the realtors that really knew what they were doing and were established that were able to survive this. We've all had to change our lifestyles, all of us. But we've hung on there, and we're the ones that are going to come out ahead because we have.
Do they have the short sales and foreclosures? I know the foreclosure, but do they have a lot of the short sales on the internet? Do they put those up there?
Well, when you advertise a property, yes, you advertise that it is short sale.
And you advertise it as a short sale, so you can go on the internet and you can see the short sales.
Sure, certainly.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. I also have investors that buy the auction properties at the courthouse. And it used to be that we would go down to the courthouse, and it would be on a Wednesday afternoon, and there would be 50 realtors in there, and you would bid on properties. And I have to say that 90% of them that were brought there, the banks took them back. And those are all the properties that we wonder where they are. Those are the shadow properties. But now it's all done online. Everything is the internet. So you don't even go to the courthouse for that. You do that business online as well.
Well, that's interesting for our viewers to know that they can actually don't have to go, because that's the old story, go down to the court steps and see what's going on and what's happening. So now they can just go on the internet and find out where they can go. Where would they look for that? Would they look for the court of the city, or how would they look for that?
Yeah, Broward County Courthouse, clerk of courts. Yeah, and that'll guide you once you get on the site. And you will get a list of properties that are going to be auctioned. You will then know when you can go and view them, and that's very, very important, especially if you're interested in a condo or something like that, because condos can have liens on them that are through the association, where someone doesn't pay their association fees. So you might be able to get a condo for $20,000, but the association fees are going to cost you another $20, $25.
Oh,
so you really have to research those properties and the liens on those properties, and the condition of the property, of course. So it's not just going online, finding a property you think is nice and bidding on it, because you don't really know what you're getting into.
Taxes have to be paid if they haven't been?
Absolutely.
Same thing with...
Then when you buy the house, when you buy a house, a short sale, you are obligated to also take care of all the liens then?
No. In order for the bank to convey clear title, they have to have clear title, which means all liens have to be cured, the taxes have to be paid. They can negotiate with you at that point. Let's say that they really want $250,000 for a house. The banks do. That's the figure that they have to have. But yet there are $5,000 worth of liens on them. They can say that the buyer is responsible for that, and that's negotiating, with the buyer. But in order for the property to sell, all of those liens have to be cured.
Right.
The banks, I'll say this, that if you're in a short sale position, the banks will pay your taxes. They're not going to lose their investment. There is something that can happen if the taxes aren't paid, that people can buy tax liens, and they can actually buy the properties from the bank. They can take them from the bank. So the banks pay the taxes. The taxes are typically current.
Hmm. What about water bills?
Pardon?
What about water bills?
Well, those have to be paid, and usually what happens is there's a certain amount that's put in escrow to cover those water bills, electricity, that type of thing.
But that was
Yeah, I've
not
seen
the
people-
responsibility.
I've seen
Well,
people having
for instance,
having
when you do
liens.
excuse me?
I've seen people having liens from the county because they didn't pay their water bills for 6 months.
Oh, sure. Sure, absolutely. I just got a HUD, a preliminary HUD on a property that's a short sale, and the bank has given $200 towards water bills. You know, they'll give a certain amount of the money towards those bills. But then it's up to the attorney or the title company to make sure that they know, you know, if there are any liens on the water and all of that.
Right. So what we didn't talk about, Peggy and Ninon, is that when people can meet their obligations and they know that the house is going to be foreclosed on, a lot of people end up staying there. And usually, I don't know the exact number, but you could stay in your home for 8 to 10 months before you get asked to leave. Now, during that time, people don't pay anything.
That's right.
Because they don't have to.
That's been going on a lot. That is a trend. They've been staying in their house as long as possible. But to answer you on that, Steve, is that they'd rather you stayed in the house than you left the house empty, because they know if the house is empty, they've got a real problem. So they usually, it's a very touchy thing, so they'd rather the person stay in the house, at least they know the house is taken care of. So it's the banks, like, sort of, they kind of play on that. They'd rather have you there, because it's going to be empty anyway. At least you're going to look after it. Is that
yes,
right?
and I'll add to that it really is better for the homeowner to stay in the property through the process. You know, obviously, because you don't want mold, you don't want the electricity turned off, you don't want theft, all of that. And the other reason is that if it is your primary residence and you are short selling the property, the banks today will actually pay you to move up to $20,000.
Wow.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard they've even gone higher than that, Peggy. I heard they're giving $40,000-$60,000 away now.
Oh, what bank was that?
That was actually, I'll tell you the bank, Barclays. Not Barclays, actually, my English bank. B of A.
Bank of America.
Bank of America, yep, that's what I heard. I heard they were being very generous, and because we've always sort of quote-unquote Bank of America, you know, they've been a little bit hard to deal with, like Chase, but they're watering down, and you've got too many properties, so they're trying to sort of cure them all and get rid of them all, and they're really helping out there, right? So they're getting a good name out there.
Yeah. I think that's really smart of them, you know, to get the homeowners out. And, you know, we've all been affected, you know, by the bubble and overbuying because of interest-only loans. So people were overbuying to begin with, and then we had, you know, and most of these people were buying and staying in the properties for 5 years and then flipping them and making a profit. And I have to say that in the history of Broward County, property values never went under what someone paid for them until we had this 2006 crash.
Right, yeah.
So
a house never went up that much. A house went up before used to go up 6%. The money you would make on a house was normally with the realtor when they were buying it and selling it. That's where the money was made. It wasn't really made on the amount of money, how much the house was worth. It was going up a little bit, but nothing like it went up before. I want to ask you another question. What is going on with a lot of this private money lending? I've noticed this like a fad out there. Everybody's going after people to invest their private money rather than going to banks. A lot of that I've seen.
I really haven't run into that here.
No, there's a lot of, well, in Vegas, they're using, there's a lot of people with private money wanting to invest, obviously there's a trust of people, but there's a lot of companies coming up because the banks, to try to get a loan at the bank is hopeless, and to put their money into a bank, they're what are going to get, 1%, 1.5%, so they'd rather lend it out at 7 and 10%, and I wondered how that was going in Florida, if it's happening down there yet.
I really, I really haven't seen that and dealt with it personally myself, not to say that it's not going on.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Peggy, is there still, based on how competitive the market has been, is there still exclusivity? Does that still exist?
Explain what you mean by exclusivity.
It's
late here.
Yeah, what I mean is, when you are representing a buyer, are you exclusive on the deal or non-exclusive?
Well, if you have them sign,
Do you ask them to? Is that the ongoing practice?
No.
Or people are just not signing it anymore?
No, and it's unfortunate a lot of people do not have integrity when it comes to realtors, and our time that we spend showing them property, traveling around, and then they find a house that they just call to sign and end up buying from someone else. So it is a good idea to have them sign the form.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a relationship that you build with them.
Okay, got it. So let's talk a little bit about what both of you have mentioned before, and maybe we can explain a little bit to our viewers these mortgage modifications. I know that Ninon knows a lot about it, and now you just told us earlier.
I went through 4 of them, Peggy. I went through 2 small commercial ones, and 2. One was a townhouse, and one was a regular house. And the townhouse, I actually got, and I will mention them in Auckland. I don't know if you know Auckland.
Yes.
Yeah, they're actually out of Florida, and they were really, really good to me. They were so nice. They actually put one of the houses down. I had 176 or whatever on the house. They dropped the actual mortgage down to 86. So the payments obviously became in half. Then I had another piece of property. They didn't drop that mortgage. They didn't drop the complete mortgage because the mortgage was very low anyway. But they dropped the payment way down.